When I try and paint something and you put a paintbrush in my hand, I get the shakes like I've just chugged 2 pots of coffee. It never seems to work for me, so I need to use stencils. And I've learned how to make stencils for cosplay and a lot of other things using freezer paper. Stay tuned and I'll show you how. Hello and welcome to another episode of I Like to BS. Build stuff. What did you think I was saying? Don't forget to hit subscribe and like below, and also hit that bell icon if you want to see when my videos come up. That will tell you when that happens. So a few years ago, I saw some of them Instructable where somebody was using freezer paper, and what they would do is they would cut a stencil out of the freezer paper and they would use it to iron it down onto a t-shirt, something like this, and then they paint over it and they just heat up that stencil and it would come off really sweet. And it just occurred to me that my lack of a steady hand and a paintbrush, this could probably solve it. Now, the process for this is pretty simple. Now, in this case, I used a laser cutter. There's absolutely no reason why you can't just use this paper as a stencil. So you can see through it. So just lay a sheet of paper underneath and trace underneath. Or if you've got an inkjet printer, cut out an 8.5 by 11 sheet. Shove it through and make sure that it's printing on the non-waxy side, and that will give you the template that you need to cut out with an X-Acto knife. Now, I've got a little coating iron or an iron used for RC aircraft to create the new coats on it. You don't have to use that. You don't need to buy one of those. Just get a standard iron, and then what I always do is I lay down the freezer paper, then I put parchment over top so that my iron doesn't get gunked up or anything sticks to it, and then iron things down. Once you iron everything down, give it a minute or two to cool, and then go out and paint. Dry the paint if you're lazy like me and can't wait with a hairdryer, but a hairdryer is not going to be enough to loosen up the glue that they have on the freezer paper. What you're going to need to do is get a heat gun, throw it on high, and then very carefully heat up a corner until you can pick it up. Now, don't stick your hand in the air because it is hot and it hurts. So, basically, once you get the corner up, is just start heating the edges that you need to pull up and start pulling away. And you'll notice that it pulls away quite nicely. Everything I've been showing you here is using spray paint, and it is on raw foam. I use this stuff called Flex Bond as an undercoat. It's a PVA covering. Basically, it's PVA glue, but it's really flexible. So what I normally do is I'll coat my foam with that after I've heat sealed it, and then I'll spray paint it. So what I did is I made another one like this, and it's messy. You can do a much better job. Spend some time and make sure that your stencil's ironed down. That's the whole reason why this one's so messy. But it still proves the point. One is if you're just going on top of the Flex Bond, it leaves kind of something foggy and it leaves some of the residue behind and it's kind of ugly. But it's pretty rare that you're not painting over top of whatever material that you have. Over on the spray painted side, you can see the B turned out just fine, and that's where everything was ironed down just nicely. So you can see that will work on a painted surface as well. If you want to do a cosplay with some really fancy filigree or something on it, this might be a way to do that. You also don't have to necessarily use an iron. You could use the heat gun to heat up the paper and then pat it down on something that is curved and rub it. Make sure that if you're heating it up with the heat gun is to have a gloved hand, something with a cotton on it. Then you should be able to smooth everything down. If you get wrinkles in it, then just pleat the stencil and you should be okay. You don't have to use this just for painting either. Is that once you have a stencil, you can lay it out on the foam, and if you're going to be cutting out a little indent or something where it looks like a little panel, this will be a great way to get those lines that you need to follow with a knife. There you have it. How to make a stencil, stick it onto your cosplay, paint over top of it, and then very quickly remove it with a little bit of heat. This is a wicked trick for anybody needing some really fine details in their cosplays, and shake like me as soon as you got a paintbrush in your hand. Don't forget to hit subscribe and like below, and also hit that bell icon if you want to see when my videos come up. That will tell you when that happens. Tell me how you make stencils if you use that, and if you use something like vinyl. Big reason I don't use vinyl is it's expensive and it's not so easy to cut. I don't have a pre-cut. Ooh, good point. If you have a pre-cut, this freezer paper would work really well inside of that, and you should be able to cut everything out. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. Hope you like this tip. It's worked really well for me, and hopefully it helps you out with your cosplays. I'll talk to you guys in a little bit.